Dasata Parajata Jatika Dese Kudamang Anukam Primang Pajan.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ Namassāmi. So today's Boxing Day. Doesn't mean anything to Americans, of course. Another year rolled by yesterday, Christmas. It's a season for recollection of especially this year. Generally Christmas would be a time of family gathering, and that really isn't happening this year. It's a time when here we are. This is my first year since the establishing of Abhayagiri that I've been here for Christmas. So that's a milestone for me. I've always been away. Over these past several days, it's come up in a couple of conversations, questions, come up in Ajahn morning reflection yesterday, just about thought, thinking, and how we relate to thought and thinking. And that, one of the things that's just so important to acknowledge or recognize is that thinking is just natural to the mind. It's what minds do. They think, they have thoughts. And to resist them or judge them too much or try to squash them, annihilate them is going to create a real sense of tension and conflict, because it's just a mind doing what minds do. It's not strange. It's not weird. But it's also important to acknowledge that there are skillful thoughts and there are unskillful thoughts, and to be able to discern that is really the kind of the task that needs to be attended to. And it's like the in the Buddha's discourse on the Majjhima number 2 Sambhasava Sutta, all the taints. The Buddha says that the overcoming of the asavas or the taints is for one who knows and sees. And what does one know and see? And one knows and sees appropriate attention and inappropriate attention. And that is because when we attend to things with, say, inappropriate attention and the qualities of, say, greed, hatred, delusion, the outflows of the taints, the asavas, increase and don't decrease. And of course the opposite is true. Appropriate attention is the source of the decrease of the defilements, decrease of the taints, and the arising of what is skillful, what's beneficial. So it's a sense of and appropriate attention is yoniso manasikara, which is translated in many different ways. Appropriate attention is one, that's Ajahn translation. Reasoned attention, wise reflection, wise consideration. Those are all, those are some of the translations. It's very, has a wide range of that. But it also, when takes that into account, I mean, the attention is also a part of the, say, reasoning, reflective, considering process, which is there's a thought involved in that process, and learning how to direct that attention or direct the thought processes in a skillful way, and to recognize when it's unskillful, when it's just say when it's unwise consideration, it doesn't catch things quick enough, and one gets tangled up in the unskillful. So I mean, it's very basic, very fundamental, but it's so important to bring our attention back, because it what tends to happen when we say apply ayoniso manasikara, say unwise attention or inappropriate attention, is that or unwise consideration, is that we tend to relate from a place of self, other, being, not being, and that is your go-to option for the say unwise consideration, and it's not just, sort of, not just do I exist, do I not exist, what am I? It's just the self-position, me and other, and that we either protect or prop up self and not recognize it. So it tends to create some kind of suffering, and that, of course, is what is the focal point for appropriate attention, rather than looking at things through the lens of self and other. The appropriate attention is there is dukkha. There is dukkha. There is this dissatisfaction. There is this disease. And there is a cause. There is a cessation. There is a path leading to its cessation. That's an appropriate base or foundation for appropriate attention, and that, because as long as we pick things up from that position of self and other, then we end up in assumptions, proliferations, misunderstandings, miscommunications, dukkha. But when we, and of course, if we keep in that mode, then it perpetuates that cycle. But then the picking things up from a place of this is dukkha, this is this. Because dukkha, and especially from the perspective of how the Buddha encourages us to pick up and reflect and consider the Four Noble Truths, is also recognizing that it has a duty involved with it, with each of those Noble Truths. So then there's the First Noble Truth has it's to be understood. The Second Noble Truth is to be abandoned. Third Noble Truth is to be realized. Fourth Noble Truth is to be developed and cultivated. So then we have a course of action, as opposed to we have something that we can be engaging in that is inherently skillful. Reacting, responding, getting entangled in the narrative of self and other, and the reactions and responses that arise from that, it gets more entangled. But that sense of looking at it through the lens of this is dukkha, and this is the course of whatever aspect of the form. This is a course of action that we can engage in that has a result. And the result is one of well-being. But it also requires thought and to engage with appropriate attention and wise consideration. It has to lift up the thought processes and engage the thought processes, and not just push the thought away or dismiss thought. I mean, some thoughts are pretty weird, but then it's like looking at it from the lens of this is an aspect of dukkha, and it needs to be related to in this way. Then it changes the dynamic. And there's a settling there. There's a relinquishment there. So it's this sense of relating the thoughts in the mind, if we can frame them in a different way. Because usually it's like, I remember Ajahn Pasanno saying, the thought is, mind's always going to have thoughts, and we just have to be, not take them so seriously, not take them so invest in them so much. He said, it's like, how we, say for a parent and having a young child who is young children are kind of talking, babbling, and asking this and saying that, and for a parent who's a skillful parent, then of course you can't buy into the children's world because it is a children's world. But then also one can't be trying to getting caught up in it or getting distracted by it. One can go about one's business with a child around and let them babble, whatever, and it's not a source of conflict or difficulty. It's what children do. Because that tends to be a lot. And certainly see that in say in Thai culture, children have a lot of, they tend to get a lot of space and a lot of care. There is the old English adage, children should be seen and not heard, which is that could be a problem. But that being recognizing, okay, thoughts are like that, thoughts are like this, and there can be a place of recognition and acceptance, and have that wise attention. We also have to use thought for lifting up themes of contemplation, like contemplating the Four Orders, or contemplating themes that brighten the mind, thoughts that help to encourage the mind. And that is because there's different terms that all have some aspect of thought. So that Yoniso is not devoid of thought. That skillful attention and wise consideration is not devoid of thought. It's just directing it in a skillful way. Vitakka, vichara are words that are used to different types of thought, or the way thought works. Vitakka is like that initial movement of thought, and the that lifting up of thought as well. It can be quite conscious, or it can be just the way the mind works. The thoughts pop up in the mind. And then vichara is like oftentimes the translation is like sustained thought, so that or the thought that, say, one of the ways that Ajahn Chah talked about is sort of vitakas like that. The lifting up of a particular thought or object of mind, and in vichara is like that. It mingles with that mind, it's just with that thought or that object, and sustains it, and then it'll get distracted or lose its impetus, and then one has to use vitaka to lift up that thought again, or another thought that is useful, beneficial, purposeful. So that process of vitaka and vichara, and of course that also can be, say, skillful, unskillful, appropriate, inappropriate, but it's the nature of that. A thought arising and it having or being able to be sustained. And that is again just being able to say, well, that's the nature of thought. And of course the nature of thought is that it is impermanent, it's uncertain, it's changing. It is, let's say, the anicca, dukkha, anatta, this sense of, and it's not just sort of trying to dismiss it with, slam it with anicca, dukkha, anatta, so it goes away. It's more like looking at it, oh, that's its nature. And something beneficial and wholesome and skillful is still anicca, dukkha, anatta. Something, of course, unskillful is also, but it's sort of seeing it in its nature. When it's like this, thought is like this. It's impermanent. It's changing. It's stressful. It's unsatisfying. It's not. There isn't a me and mine. But it still is a part of the way this mind-body works, and is an integral part of nature that we are embedded in. So being able to hold it so that it's not. It's having the appropriate perspective. There's another discourse where the Buddha talks of the fivefold right concentration, fivefold samma samadhi, so right concentration, and it's quite interesting because of course, says, well, what are the five? And then the Buddha goes into the description of first jhana with its image of the bathman's apprentice, and second jhana and the lake or the pond with the spring, and the third jhana, fourth jhana, same, just those stock descriptions with stock definition and description with the image and simile. And then what's the fifth? A factor of right concentration or samadhi. And the Buddha said, well, the fifth factor is that practitioner has the theme of reflection well in hand, well considered, well, held well, and it's also kind of like well penetrated. So it's like the theme of reflection is a part of all of those different jhanas, so that thought and reflection. Another the theme of reflection is the translation that Ajahn Jeff uses, Bodhi or something, object of reviewing. Because the word is in Pali is Pachawekana. And that's the same, say, like the food reflection that we do. And then every day, and begins wisely reflecting. And of course the chant that we do, the reflection that we do on the four requisites, it's that Pachawekana. So it's a wisely reflecting, but it's also, there's a reviewing, so that it relies on thought. But it needs to be well in hand. It needs to be well grasped. It needs to be well considered. It needs to be well penetrated. And of course, the only way we can do that is through thought, relying on the thought processes to apply the mind so that it is seeing, okay, what's beneficial, what's not beneficial, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, what's going to lead to dukkha, what's going to lead out of dukkha. So is that using that reflection and thought can be a part of that, and necessarily needs to be. I mean, sometimes it's, the use of thought also helps to settle the mind, to still the mind. And that's that's an indication where, with that vitaka vichara, that initial thought, sustained thought, that when the thought starts kind of spreading, proliferating, then one has to come back and lift up a settling thought, lift up an object of stillness, or lift up an object of clarity, and the vichara. And so it's an ongoing exercise, ongoing contemplation, ongoing reflection, and learning how to work with thought, learning how to recognize when one's thoughts are, they're going down a trail that is this is not boding well, and to be able to pull back from that. And sometimes, again, it's where suffering is a teacher. It's not sort of a kind of absolute proof that you're an irredeemable abject failure. All it means is that's inappropriate attention to what is not skillful, and then start again, and then when those thoughts are directed skillfully, to acknowledge and recognize that, to support it, and to see that clearly, delight in the skillful, delight in the wholesome, delighting in the beneficial, so that these say the development of this path is of course it is a complete path, training of body, speech, and mind, and it's a complete path that we cultivate, we develop, we keep working at it. And then it's also sort of, but then having the perspectives that allow us to begin again, to begin anew, to reestablish that commitment to the past, to the training, and that relationship to thought is also having that sense of being able to hold it skillfully. One of the images that always comes to mind for me is Ajahn Chah's image of the in the villages. They would, when you have chickens and you've got these big, very loose kind of baskets made from bamboo, and big holes, and you throw down a bit of rice and you put the basket over chicken, 1, 2, 3 chickens, whatever, and they just stay in that little basket, and they're not that big, they're kind of like that, and they're happy enough to be there, and not a because if you tried to sort of pound a stake in the ground and tie their leg to it, and they'd be flying all over the place trying to get loose. But it's just giving enough space, have some food for it to poke away at, peck away at, and similarly with mind, there's a big enough container that we can see the nature of the mind, see the nature of thought, see that change, and not be shaken by it, and not be pulled in, not be drawn in. And it's still moving, it's still unsatisfactory, but it's not shaking the mind so much. And that's it's the foundation of our one of the really important ways of relating the thought relating to the thinking mind. And just having a big enough container, and also again just that recognizing of the nuances that are there and how to use it skillfully. Over there for reflection.
Andamaya Kamakatayo Sadhu Param Dadamase
Sadhu Sadhu